Welcome back, and welcome back to Keith Hilly. It's great to see you back here. Keith, how are you going? You had a couple of weeks off.
You had a nice break, Bruce. Fantastic to be back. In fact, if you transpose my age, that's how I feel right now.
I'll work all that out.
Yes.
We've put Max out for a spell in the last fortnight. Are you upset about that?
No, I'm delighted. Deliriously happy about that.
He won't be back for about 10 weeks.
Hope Wayne's still with us.
Oh, he is. Well, let's go to Brisbane. And how are you going, Wayne? You well?
I'm very well, thank you, Bruce. We had a great day of racing at Eagle Farm yesterday, and everyone up here is talking about this new jockey, Brett Preble. John Mars said he's the new Stephen King. That's a big rap, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he might be right too. He's ridden 53 winners. He won the Sydney Cup on Darcher and yesterday snared your Grand Prix, Wayne.
Yes, over Mick Dittman too, because Mick was booked for the horse, or he had first refusal of the ride on Perfect Bound. Mick decided to go against Perfect Bound, rode Dana Singer, and there was Perfect Bound and Brett Preble challenging with 200 metres to go and beating him in the run to the line of the Grand Prix.
Wayne, let's go to the race. John Mars having a bit of a run of late. As Keith said, Darcher won the Sydney Cup. This horse has won the Grand Prix. Must now be a chance for the Derby. Are these the A-minuses? When I think of Dane Wynn and Brave Warrior and Ivory's Irish, is this the group just below, or are these the horses we should be looking at for the Derby?
Well, these are the horses we should be looking at for the Derby, because it doesn't look as though Brave Warrior and Dane Wynn will go to the Derby. So this is going to be our Derby lineup. Now, this was a beautiful ride by Preble. There he is coming to the outside in the gold cap. Turradoo Compton was forced to go a little earlier than he wanted to because the height was dropping back on him. Dana Singer is going to Turradoo. Turradoo fighting back gamely, but Perfect Bound is joining in quickly. He had a weight advantage yesterday, a weight advantage that he won't have in the Derby, but nevertheless it was a great win by Perfect Bound, and I think the further they go, he's going to be better suited. He is, of course, a full brother to a Derby winner of 2 years ago in Royal Magic, and John Mars feels there's further improvement in Perfect Bound, so he looms as the one to beat in the Derby.
Talk after the race, Wayne, was about the performance of the favourite Jiggler, flashing home for fourth. I don't know, I thought the trio in front of him sort of had his measure.
Yes, but to his credit, Keith, he was in trouble 800 metres from home. Dye was niggling at him, and yet when they reached the line, he was still there whacking away in fourth place. He might be looking for more ground. Tommy Smith, who deputised for Gay Waterhouse yesterday, was very complimentary of the performance of Juggler, and Tom said that he is going to develop into one of the great stayers in this country. Now, it's a big statement to make, but he's a big man making it.
Gee, we're going well. I've got Dane Wynn and Brave Warrior running the Derby, and you've got Jiggler and Juggler. How are you going, Keith?
Juggled Jiggler around, didn't I?
Wayne, you're working with a couple of mugs today. How are you going up there, son? You getting nervous?
I know. We'll handle it. Don't worry about it, Bruce.
OK, just we'll talk about Ivory's Irish, because I think he'll run in the Derby a bit later, because we'll look at Dane Wynn's run. Now, Sublimate's beaten New Sept. New Sept's sort of the new horse on the scene. He's sitting in between these two front runners at the moment, and Sublimate parked on them. Now, he's won about $500,000 in stakes, this fellow. Is he... I read last night that he may not go for the Stradbroke. He may go for the Qantas Cup.
Yes, I think that's a nice option for him too, because 1,200 metres is his ideal distance. 1,400, I think he would just struggle at a little bit against the opposition that he's likely to run into in the Stradbroke this year.
Wayne, can you find the fourth horse, Flying Tycoon, for us? It's the stablemate who may try and get into the Stradbroke field.
Extreme outside with the red cap and running on very nicely. It was a great performance. Look at Bondi just behind them in 5th place at the moment. Had no luck at all. Sublimate just a little too good, but had to run a track record to beat New Sept. They have some very good sprinters there. Sublimate's win was good, but New Sept is a horse of the future. Flying Tycoon and Bondi, 2 horses to watch.
Gee, Wayne, just looking at that there, I was calling the football in Melbourne, and I've only had one look at that race, so I didn't see the race live yesterday. Flying Tycoon, if the bloke had sneezed or hit it with a whip, it would have certainly run third. Was there anything said about that?
No, not that I know of. And
gee, go and have another look this afternoon. I mean, geez, go ahead.
What are you saying?
I couldn't believe it. I just watched it then.
All right. Wayne Hariba probably won't run in the Stradbroke.
You tell Bruce to be a bit careful, because that's your boy on Flying Tycoon, Brett Preble on the outside.
Well, I tell you what, he only had to hit it with a whip and it would have run third.
It's a good run, wasn't it?
Oh.
He is that type of horse, Bruce. He's the type of horse you've got to cuddle a little bit and nurse a little bit.
Cuddle, he's given it a huge smack on the lips. Oh, am I being too harsh?
Far too harsh. Hariba probably will miss. Can we get back to the news of the morning, Wayne?
Yes, let's get back to Hariba. Hariba was running a slight temperature on Friday night. I spoke to Ken Newman yesterday.
See what I'm running a temperature right now, Wayne. Keep going.
And Ken is of the opinion that it looks as though it's time to pull the pin on the Stradbroke preparation for Hariba. Now, he had to have a conference with the owners of the horse and talk about it over 24, 48 hours, and a decision won't be made until tomorrow or the day after. but it does look as though it's a little bit unlikely that he'll proceed to the Stradbroke. Now, he was a little bit behind the 8 ball with him anyway, and with this coming up now, it just puts him too far behind. So I think he'll be directed towards the Manikato. Is it, Keith, in August?
Yeah, it is. It used to be the Freeway Stakes, and
right.
now the Manikato. I had to get something right. I had to get something right today. We're going to go to the Hollandale Cup in a moment. Tell us about Mick Dittman. You've got some big news concerning him. Well,
Mick Dittman has decided next season to concentrate on Melbourne racing. He said he hasn't really got a big stable behind him in Sydney, and he's had several offers coming from leading trainers in Melbourne, particularly from the Freedman stable. Now, Damien Oliver is #1 jockey for the Freedman stable, but Mick has a close connection to Lloyd Williams, and he'll be doing the bulk of the riding for the Lloyd Williams-Kerry Packer connection in Melbourne. So it looks as though Mick will base himself on the Gold Coast, as is his style. That's where he loves to live. But he will be journeying to Melbourne on a more regular basis, and he'll be concentrating on Melbourne racing next year. He said he has several offers from several other leading stables to do their riding down there as well. So you blokes in Melbourne are going to see a lot more of Australia's champion jockey Mick Dittman next season.
Well, that's great news. That'll be our gain and yours and Sydney's loss too. He's a great rider, and what a spring carnival he had.
Yeah, he was in fantastic form earlier this year. Now, what about the Hollandale Cup? Was Brave Warrior unlucky? Dane Wynn gets this tremendous run on the fence. Brave Warrior's the widest horse. Ivory's Irish in the Cummings colours. And bless his heart, dear old Rough Habit, what a great horse he is, just behind them.
Well, Dane Wynn got that beautiful run on the inside, swapped the runs, and Brave Warrior would have really tested Dane Wynn, but that was the luck of the race. Dane Wynn too good for Brave Warrior in the run to the line, and both will clash in the Doomben Cup at Doomben next Saturday, and that is lining up to be a real beauty, with Ivory's Irish going to that race as well. Just a little bit of a scare for Ivory's Irish on Friday at Eagle Farm. He dumped the jockey in track work, bolted around Eagle Farm, but everything was okay. He came back and there was nothing amiss with the horse. They head to the Doomben Cup next week.
It's going to be a tremendous race, along with the Stradbroke. Did you tell us who Mick Dittman was going to ride in the Stradbroke? I've been everywhere this morning, you can understand.
Well, because of that connection with Lloyd Williams, Mahogany is floating around there, but Mick is very keen to stay on board Chief De Beers, who he won the 10,000 on last week. So Mick hasn't made his mind up at the moment. I think he'd like to be on Chief De Beers, but there is that association with Lloyd Williams that could steer him towards Mahogany.
You be careful, Wayne, because if Mahogany's first up, he's the best first up horse in the
world.
Well,
district.
He's unbelievable first up. He's extraordinary. Pindy during the week, and Scrupulous were the big race winners. Scrupulous coming home just to win the Adelaide Cup. I think he'll make a very good horse. What about Pindy, Keith? You've seen, it was a great, the strapper said she's a groupie, meaning she's had 4 wins in her life and 3 of them have been group wins. I'm not sure Pindy would be too happy about that, but it was a big win.
Yeah, she's a very talented mare. She showed that as a 3-year-old, and she's obviously going right on. The Adelaide Cup result was a roughie. Bullwinkle finished 5th in the Adelaide Cup and got his reward yesterday.
Wayne, what do you make of Pindy briefly? Where does she go?
Well, I wonder whether the track advantaged her at the Gold Coast. She was certainly pretty authoritative in her win down there. She won by 6 lengths. I believe she'll head towards the Doomben Cup and then the Brisbane Cup. Initially, they came here with just the one mission, the Gold Coast Cup. They completed that, and with such authority that now they're toying with the idea of the Doomben Cup and the Brisbane Cup as well. And, well, if she got the sting out of the ground in one of those races, she'd be competitive. She's certainly racing very well at the moment.
Well, she beat Starstruck on protest in the Dalgety. She is a good mare. Look, the second leg of the Triple Crown was run this morning, only a couple of hours ago. Thunder Gulch had won the Kentucky Derby. The Triple Crown is the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness Stakes and the Belmont Stakes. Let's go to Baltimore, Pimlico for the Preakness Stakes, the final stages, and watch for Timber Country, who was favourite in the Derby and ran 3rd.
Come in the Preakness, Pat Day with Timber Country on the outside. Thunder Gulch toward the inside is 2nd. Along the inside, Oliver's Twist is 3rd. Through the stretch and to the wire, Timber Country has the lead. Oliver's Twist on the inside will get the runner-up spot. And the Derby winner, Thunder Gulch, finished 3rd. What an exciting Preakness as Timber Country came to the top of the stretch.
Our stablemates, Timber Country, Thunder Gulch, D. Wayne Lucas, he was the 2-year-old of the year. We're out of time, Keith. I've taken so long over flying.
Yeah, you took most of it too, Bruce.
Good to have you back. We'll see you next Sunday.
Sure.
Wayne, catch you next Sunday with the Doomben Cup.
Thank you, Bruce. Look forward to it.
He's sweating, can you see? Poor devil working with us today. After this State of Origin Rugby League, we talk to Ian Roberts.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and if they want to voice their opinion...
John Schreck is Australia's best-known steward. He resigned and retired Saturday a week ago from the AJC after 13 years service in Sydney. He goes to the Malaysian Racing Association, where he'll be based in Singapore. He has been outspoken. He certainly has been outstanding, I feel, over a decade. in Sydney. During the week I went to Randwick, caught up with John in his office, and we talked about some of the things that have highlighted his career as Chief Steward, and we talked firstly about the timing of his departure.
It does get more difficult as you sort of stay in a spot longer. I think that's why I'm pleased to be able to make the move from Sydney now. I think it's a job that probably, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not saying it applies to everybody, but certainly I could stay somewhere too long in this kind of job. You need fresh ideas, Bruce. You need someone. The banks used to do it, Dale Geddes used to do it, all those organisations. You need people to come in with fresh ideas, with who haven't got any close association. Not that I've got a close association with anybody, but I mean, I know a lot of people's problems, and not that you dodge around it, but I mean, subconsciously you do think of things at times that you probably should disregard.
I mean, you said that, you know, your time can be long enough, and 13 years is a fair stint, but with the race tapes, that's the big one, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Disappointed?
Yeah, yes. I'd rather. I've put it off going now for some months because of the tapes and the other things that are happening. One of the sort of disappointing aspects of it is, Bruce, you see, I've always been of the view that I thought our society was one where you're innocent until proven guilty, and I don't know. Some people have a different view, clearly, from mine. And you know, I've seen headlines about jockeys going to jail and all sorts of inferences being drawn, and even the infamous now Mr. C, whether it's going to be difficult for him to get a fair trial with all that's gone on. And I worry about that sort of aspect of things like tapes getting into the public arena too much. And I worry about telephone intercepts, to be truthful with you. I think it's a very dangerous philosophy, very dangerous practice. And I think, you know, if I talk to you on the telephone, well, then I'm entitled to the presumption that that's a fairly private conversation.
Our Maze K clear with 100 to go. Milritz, the filly, is coming after him quickly and getting between them. Flying Spur, and look at Octagonal jumping out of the ground. Flying Spur hit the front. Flying Spur wins the slipper. Flying Spur for Glenn Boss.
They'll make a movie about it one of these days, with what happened on the Friday, and we were in court until 10 or 11 o'clock on the Friday night with Jim Cassidy trying to get a stay, and no jockey on the horse until 10 or 11 o'clock the Friday night. Then the horse winning, and the pressure the Freedmans were under, and all that. It was just I tell you, it was a day that I'll never forget. Like, it was just a blow-up day.
You ever seen a boat race?
The short answer to that is I believe I have, yes.
As Chief Steward?
Well, that's a bit difficult. Could I just kind of pass on that a bit? But certainly I've seen races that I've been worried about, yes.
Difficult to do anything about?
Yes, very difficult, because you see, with the boat races, they say, Bruce, what happens is that there's simply a good thing is turned into a certainty. Like a boat race not put on around a 10 to 1 shot. If you and I were putting on a boat race, we'd put it on around a 6 to 4 shot and get 6 to 4 about, with the help it was getting, that should be 6 to 4 on.
So not so many people are hurt in a boat race.
No, that's right.
Because the favourite wins and everyone's happy.
As I say, the good things turn into a certainty.
Perhaps we should have more of them.
Well, I don't know about that, Bruce, but anyway. I suppose it depends whether you know or not.
Lee Freedman's situation. The blinkers. Are you able to comment about this at all? Were you surprised that he was put out for 4 months?
No, I couldn't comment on that really, because I don't know the situation. My views on blinkers are very different from lots of other people, certainly from the Victorian sort of aspect of it. I think Lee Freedman, I haven't put a hand on a horse in anger for 30 years. I don't know of a steward that has. Lee Freedman he's trained group winners that more group winners than I've seen. And I think so far as we're concerned here, we take a fairly low-key attitude towards blinkers, so long as we know what's going on, and the horse is trialled on the track with another one, and it's not going to run off or create any dangerous situation. That's all we want to know about it. I think they're sometimes a bit overemphasised, Bruce, although a lot of Mr. Hayes in Adelaide, of course, for example, I think the horse is pretty much broken in there with blinkers, so they know a lot more about it than I would.
A race for you over 13 years that you saw that took you somewhere else, I mean, raised your spirits like no other?
I think probably the year that Superimposed won the Epsom with Beedman rode him, when everybody expected him to come wide, and Beedman made a split-second decision to go right instead of left, and zigged and zagged through, and he jumped up out of nowhere with 50, 60 yards to go to win, you know, and Beedman was very emotional about it, and John Capp missed him pretty much, except for the last little bit. Nearly everybody did.
And Superimpose has about 2 behind him as they turn for home, and he's got nowhere to go coming over the rise. Planet Ruler joined on the inside by Livingstone Elaine. Livingstone Elaine takes the lead coming to the 200 mark. Quick Score into the clear, running on strongly. Twiglet down the outside, running a big race at big odds, and Bold Rances into the clear now. Livingstone Elaine is the leader. Down the outside is Twiglet. Look at Superimpose. He's come through between horses. He's going to do it. It's history at Randwick. Superimpose has come from last, and he wins his second Epsom. An amazing performance and a great ride by Beedman. Superimpose.
Pat Lawler was quoted during the week in the Australian on Monday as saying that John Schreck has always promoted John, and I've promoted racing, or the interests of racing. There seems to be a great philosophical difference between two men who in a way are the most powerful in a judiciary sense in the whole of Australian racing.
Yeah, well, we start from the back going forward. Certainly not, I don't think anybody in a position such as mine or Pat Lawler really is very powerful. Every decision we make is subject to appeal. If we find you $10 tomorrow, it's subject to appeal. So the power thing is a perception one, really. That part of it. So I don't think that's necessarily... The stewards don't make laws, they only enforce them for committees. The committees are certainly very powerful and should always remain so. I'm just a humble employee, Bruce, and without a cheque each month, my mortgage doesn't get paid. So far as other aspects of it is concerned, well, Pat is entitled to his views, and I'd sort of prefer to leave it at that. I've lived and worked around racetracks, different from some people, all my life, done nothing else. Only ever been around racetracks and shearing sheds. That's all I've ever done, Bruce, and, you know, I've got up in the middle of the night to get a horse a drink of water, and so horses are pretty important to me.
And what a great job he's done, John Schreck. We wish him well in Singapore. We're taking a break. Motor racing after this, and shortly Tony Cottee, the superstar from British soccer. We talk about the FA Cup.